Going to talk about, obviously, Jurgen Klopp appeared on the Diary of a CEO podcast, one of the most watched or listened to podcasts, certainly in the UK. I don't know, obviously the reach is worldwide as well, given the amount of views and stuff it gets. It was an interesting one, this. Obviously, if you haven't watched it, we'll go through some of the highlights or topics covered, Paul. But for Jurgen Klopp to sit down and do, it was a very long interview on such a high-profile platform. First of all, what did you make of it, just in general, as a spectator / listener of the show? Did it live up to what you expected you were going to get?
Yeah, what it did was it reminded me how gregarious and how charismatic and great company Klopp was when he was fresh and energised and keen to sit down and chat. I remember me and a few of my colleagues from the national media chatting to him before the Carabao Cup final in 2024, was it? And he hadn't done a pre-match press conference. Pep Linders had done that. So we went upstairs with Klopp in the Carlsberg lounge of the AXA. So we hadn't just done 15, 20 minutes of a press conference. So he came into it quite refreshed and sat down. And at the end of it, 20, 25 minutes, you're coming away from it thinking, no wonder these players run through a brick wall for this fella, because he was just so illuminating in everything that he said. And there was a lot of that in the chat with Stephen Bartlett. The things that make him such a charismatic, public orator, and speaking in, it's not even his first language, is he? But, the way he talks and the way he is so enthusiastic, and he just has a little turn of phrase for so many things, and just sums things up in, 5 or 6 words. And sometimes you think, never thought about it like that. And I thought it was brilliant. At the first time I've ever listened to the Stephen Bartlett podcast, if I'm honest, but it was, it was very, very good, very interesting in some bits. So he was talking about his relationship with Michael Edwards and Julian Ward, and the fact that there was essentially no structure around him in his final months as the manager, and that is essentially what ground him down and took his energy away, because he was having to do so much. Liverpool don't have that at all nowadays, do they, with the framework they've got in place? But yeah, it was just really entertaining, and a snapshot into what Liverpool fans were able to enjoy for best part of a decade, really.
It was interesting, and listen, we work in the media game, we get it a little bit, like some of the major talking points that come out of it. And I felt actually one of the things it did a disservice was this whole, he was asked, would you ever go back to Liverpool? And he said, well, yeah. I did say I'd never manage an English team, so theoretically, yes. And as soon as he says theoretically, yes, I mean, listen, the actual podcast platform he was on himself on that show kind of promote, and why wouldn't you? That's a great hook to get people to watch or listen to your podcast. It got reported everywhere around national, like Jurgen Klopp doesn't rule out moving to Liverpool, etc. He does then go on to say he hated being on the training pitch in the rain. He doesn't want to do that anymore. Not hated, but he doesn't want to go back to that. He doesn't really fancy being in dressing rooms anymore. He said they stink. Along with the things, he said he's enjoying his job now. He's got no interest in going back. He doesn't miss it at all. But just that one line became actually of a 90 to, 90 minutes, 2 hour into whatever, that became the focus. And given the fact that it was recorded before Liverpool versus Manchester United, but it come out the day after, obviously Liverpool had just lost their 4th game on the run and people were criticising Arne Slot. It was inopportune at best in terms of Liverpool fandom. In terms of that podcast, it's brilliant for them. Like, that's what a time to get people listening to it. But I thought it was quite a shame for a man who, like you said, articulates himself and is a master communicator. He's one of the best speakers and, like you said, charismatic men ever. The theoretically yes became this big massive talking point, and it kind of overshadowed everything else a little bit. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, when it first came out, I seen the quotes before I'd watched the YouTube, and I just sort of shrugged. I was like, oh, is this the big takeaway line? It's clearly not going to happen. It was just, Jurgen Klopp just, asked the theoretical question, and that was that. Move on. The timing of it was very unfortunate, but it was recorded while Liverpool were on a 3-game losing streak, so it wasn't recorded that long ago. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to find out a bit more about, the inner workings of what it was like. Certainly sort of the last year or two at Liverpool. We know, the Barcelona stories, we know about Madrid, the winning the league, we know all these stories because we work in the Liverpool bubble. But we haven't really heard that much about what led to him thinking enough's enough. And, for me, it was a bit disheartening thinking, well, is this the takeaway line that theoretically, yes, he would return to Liverpool, because it's just not going to happen, is it? But it was a I'd say a real insight, but we already knew what he was like, but it was just a bit of a reminder of why he was so revered by Liverpool fans. I think I've maybe got about 10-15 minutes left to complete of it, but there wasn't much talk of Red Bull, was there?
Not, he just says he's enjoying his job and what he's doing. It was a very much a look back at his time from Mainz a little bit into Liverpool and stuff like that. I actually think you did get a little bit from him in terms of why he left, and he mentions like the 10 to 12, your fault, 10 to 12 press conferences a week and the interviews and on the training pitch, and then he at the end again, you might know, he mentions like the fact that he's in such good shape physically as well because he's able to train. He went,
he's playing paddle left and right.
He said like I was getting bigger and bigger because I was constantly busy, and he meant, I had no sporting director, I had George Schmadke for it, but like I'm in meetings about tours and play, and he no wonder he was absolutely done in. And like I say, Liverpool have put this new structure in place. You'd like to hope that doesn't happen to Arne Slot, a change of job title as well, maybe protects him a little bit from that. But I think that should have been the main takeaway, the fact that here's why I left. I didn't fall out with anyone. This idea that he says, me and Michael Edwards or Julian Ward or whoever fell out with each other, that's not true. We all got on. Sure, we disagreed at times, but it was never, that's no reason for me to walk away. I feel like that should have been the main takeaway, as well as, like you say, just some of the stories of his man management, like he treated Trent Alexander-Arnold differently than he treated James Miller. Those bits should have been the takeaway. I don't think it does Jurgen any favours. It doesn't do Arne Slot any favours or anyone any favours for that people have jumped on this line of theoretically it's possible. He's not coming back. Like, there's no way. He's not managing football ever again. He even said himself, in 10 years' time, I might change my mind. He'll be 60-odd. He'll have been out the game for 10 years. Like, what's he going to do? Like, this idea that he's coming back feels quite far-fetched now. Yeah,
and I think it's been good that Arne Slot hasn't been asked about that. It would have been, I suppose he wasn't there for a pre-match press conference, was he, with the issues that they had with the flights, but it's good that hasn't been sort of bowled across to him, because it was just a bit of a non-starter. It was, just Jurgen Klopp reaffirming his love of the club, and if there was to be a return in the Premier League, then it would be Liverpool, but it's not going to happen, is it? And he's moved on. He's got an incredible, memories and body of work at the club to look back on forever, and so to supporters. But at the moment, it is the Arne Slot era, and, Liverpool, let's not forget, are Premier League champions as a result of his work.
Yeah, and like it also, so Jurgen mentions that, he's happy for Liverpool, he's happy for Arne. He was he left the team behind, of course, that Arne then moulded a little bit and changed in terms of tactics and won the league. So yeah, like, fascinating reaction. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, guys, if you've watched it, what you thought of it as well. Because one thing is certain, like I say, we've all been lucky enough or had the pleasure of spending time with that man, or I say all of us, me and you at least, and a few others. He is, for a man speaking in a second language, you are captivated by everything he says. I don't know what it is about him. He has just got this aura, this charisma, and he says himself he doesn't know where that comes from, but he is an unbelievable communicator. He is the perfect guest to have on any podcast, because you could just listen to him for 5 hours. I reckon if you listen to me for an hour, you'd be bored, and I'm sure people at home would be. You could listen to 5 hours a year, and I think you'd be hanging off every single word.
Yeah, but what was interesting though is Stephen Bartlett got away with asking a few questions that maybe, had myself or my colleagues asked the similar question, we might have got the... Which ones
are you thinking of?
There was like the return to Liverpool question. I think if we would have ever asked Klopp that since he's left, he would have narrowed his eyes, and why you're asking this, to see, a bit suspicious of that one. But it was good to see him in relaxed mood, which meant that he was unguarded and open and amenable, and that is what you want from a podcast subject, isn't it? So, I guess, I'm not sure who else Stephen Bartlett's had on his podcast. It'd be all the LinkedIn types who own it, but he would have hit the mother load with that one, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jamie Carragher's done it once as well. I think I remember watching or listening to that one, but yeah, it's not really something I do listen to, but I thought it was absolutely fascinating. Again, let us know your thoughts in the comment section, your thoughts, because that's our review anyway. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that one. That was a clip from Journo Insight. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.